In my previous life, a young intellectual from the city fell in love with me at first sight. He pursued me for 3 years, but everyone in the village kept warning me that city men were fickle, that once he returned to the city, he would definitely abandon me. They said he only wanted to play with me. My parents didn't believe his feelings were real. Instead, they married me off to a local man, saying he was honest and down to earth, and that he would treat me well. Not long after, the city man married my younger sister. But it turned out that the rough village man my parents chose for me had always liked my sister. I was locked in the house, treated as nothing more than a tool to bear children, while my sister followed the young intellectual back to the city and became a respected city wife. When I suffered a difficult childbirth, my sister refused to send me to the hospital. She stood beside my bed, watching me bleed to death, and finally told me the truth. Our father had lied to the city man, claiming that I was the one who would marry him, and that lie had made their marriage possible. My sister sneered, "You made me live like a widow all these years. You deserve to die." My husband held her in his arms lovingly and said, "I told you I'd never let you suffer the pain of childbirth." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the past before marrying that man. I looked at my parents, who believed they were doing what was best for me, and at my caring younger sister. My heart turned cold as I said firmly, "I'm not marrying him." "What nonsense are you talking about? We've already accepted the betrothal gifts." My father, Robert Miller, turned red with anger, looking at me as though I had deeply disappointed him. "Do you know how many people want to marry into the Carter family? I begged everywhere to arrange this match for you." When I stayed silent, he softened his tone. My mother, Helen Miller, took my hand gently and said earnestly, "Emily, once you marry Jacob Carter, you'll live close to home and never have to worry about food or clothing. Isn't that good?" "Yes, sis," my younger sister, Lily Miller, said brightly. "Brother Jacob may look fierce, but that he's actually very gentle." But when I looked at her innocent, smiling face, memories from my previous life flooded back. I remembered lying on that filthy bed, bleeding endlessly, begging my husband to take me to the hospital. And Lily, dressed in a little floral dress, sat in Jacob's arms shaking her head coldly. "You made me live like a widow all these years. You deserve to die. You should feel honored to bear children for the Carter family." That was when I realized Lily and my husband, Jacob, had been having an affair all along. Jacob pitied her and didn't want her to suffer through childbirth, so he made me do it instead. I looked straight at Lily and said coldly, "You think he's so good? Then you can marry him. You've always liked Jacob Carter, haven't you? This time, I'll make it happen for you." Lily's face turned pale and she stammered, "What are you talking about, Emily? How could you say that? What's wrong with Jacob? He's tall, strong, and a great hunter. You'll live comfortably with him." My father slammed his hand on the table. "Enough, you'll marry Ethan Cooper." At the mention of Ethan Cooper, both my parents looked shocked, because Ethan was nothing like the conservative villagers of Riverside Village. 3 years ago, Ethan had come from the city as a young intellectual. He was tall, handsome, and elegant, more attractive than any movie star. All the girls in the village found excuses to walk past the fields just to see him. But Ethan ignored everyone. When the girls lingered too long, he would tell them to leave without hesitation. Later, while cutting grass, he was bitten by a snake. I happened to pass by and saved him. After that, Ethan began openly pursuing me. He often brought me food and small gifts, helped me carry firewood, wash my clothes, and followed me wherever I went. In our backward mountain village, where marriages were arranged by parents and matchmakers, his behavior was shockingly bold. As his affection for me became more obvious, the villagers started gossiping. They warned me again and again, "Don't be fooled by that city man. He's handsome and smooth-talking, but he's just playing around. Remember the girl from the next village? A city man got her pregnant and refused to marry her. She ended up hanging herself. The elders in the village always said he didn't seem like an honest man. They claimed that once a city man saw a pretty girl, he'd try to take advantage of her. The older women constantly warned me to stay away from him, and even my parents didn't like the idea of their daughter getting too close to him. One day, I suddenly developed a fever. My mother reached out to touch my forehead, panic flashing across her face, while my father paced around the house angrily, hands clasped behind his back. The Carter family was one of the wealthiest in the village. They lived in a 3-story brick house, and Jacob Carter was strong enough to do the work of 3 men. Ethan Cooper, on the other hand, was a city youth sent to the countryside. He lived in one of the government-allocated houses, looked frail and weak, and even seemed to struggle with heavy work. Lily Miller, full of energy and confidence, took out a silver pocket watch and said proudly, "Ethan already said he's going to marry me. Look, this is what he gave me as a token of his promise." The moment I saw that silver pocket watch, my heart clenched. In my previous life, Lily had also shown me the same watch, claiming that Ethan had given it to her as an engagement token. At that time, I had been hesitating, uncertain about whether to agree to the Carter family's marriage proposal. When I heard Lily's words, I thought Ethan had changed his mind and no longer cared for me. So I foolishly obeyed my parents and agreed to marry Jacob. But this time, I reacted differently. I shoved Lily hard, sending her tumbling to the floor. Then I snatched the pocket watch from her hands and ran out of the house as fast as I could. Nothing like the obedient, gentle daughter I had once been. I didn't stop running until I reached the edge of the village, out by the rice fields. There, I clutched the pocket watch tightly in my palm, tears stinging my eyes. I couldn't believe how foolish I had been in my previous life. So gullible, so easily swayed by others' words. My father had been reluctant to give up his eldest daughter to an ordinary family, so he insisted on marrying me into the Carter household for their wealth and status. At the same time, he wanted someone in the family to marry into the city, so he deceived Ethan Cooper into marrying my sister instead. In my past life, I had tried so hard to please Ethan, but he had refused to even touch me. Every so often he would send money to Lily, using my name. It disgusted me to the core. I never understood why she resented me so deeply. She was the one who lied to marry Ethan and live a glamorous city life, while I was locked in the Carter household like an animal used for their desires, forced to bear children. I'm sorry, the memory overwhelmed me, and I thought of the miserable life I had lived at the Carters, of the prejudice I once had against Ethan, and of my sister's cruelty. The pain broke me. I crouched down by the field and sobbed uncontrollably. Then, through my tears, I heard a familiar voice tinged with a faint northern accent. "Emily," I looked up to see Ethan Cooper, dressed in a clean white shirt, bending slightly toward me. He had only spoken 2 words when he noticed my tears streaming even harder. Panicked, he fumbled through his pockets, pulled out a handkerchief, and hesitated before finally placing it in my hand. "Here," he said softly. After I wiped my eyes, he turned his head aside, his voice low and unsure. "Emily, are you crying because you don't want to marry me? If you don't, I'll go talk to your father right now. Don't be sad, okay?" His voice caught slightly trembling. "I don't ever want to make you cry." Hearing that, I grew angry and threw the handkerchief back at him. "No, it's not that. I don't want to marry Jacob Carter. My father is the one who's forcing me to marry him." Ethan's eyes widened in shocked. "What? That can't be right. Did your father make a mistake?" Still sniffling, I took the crumpled silver pocket watch from my hand and showed it to him. "Didn't you give this to Lily? She said it was your engagement gift." Ethan, who had gone through much since coming to the countryside, was no longer the naive city boy he once was. He immediately understood what had happened. Taking my trembling hand in his, he said solemnly, "I only want to marry you. That watch, I asked your father to give it to you for me since I hadn't seen you for so long." My eyes burned again with tears. "I wasn't allowed to go out lately," I whispered. "My parents said I shouldn't wander around or see you. They said people in the village would gossip, so I avoided you. And that's how Lily had the chance to trick you." Ethan squeezed my hand tightly, his gaze steady and warm. "Let's go register our marriage," I said, clenching my fists with determination. In our village, people only held banquets to celebrate weddings. They didn't even know about marriage certificates. In my past life, I had never registered my marriage with Jacob Carter. Lily had taken my place and claimed that right for herself. Ethan had been pursuing me for years, but because the village was so conservative and I often avoided him, he thought I didn't like him. "Emily, are you serious?" His voice trembled slightly. "Yes," I said firmly. "Then wait for me by the village entrance tomorrow morning," he said. "I'll go home and steal our household registration book." Before I could respond, Ethan suddenly pulled me into a tight embrace. My heart skipped a beat, and I immediately looked around to see if anyone was watching. How could he be so bold? "Thank you, Emily," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. The faint scent of soap from his shirt mixed with the evening breeze and brushed softly over me. By the time I sneaked back home through the back door, The sky was already dark. My mother, Helen Miller, was in the backyard slaughtering a chicken, while my sister Lily was, as usual, clinging to her side. "Mom, what are we going to do?" Lily's anxious voice whined. "If Emily doesn't hurry up and marry him, Jacob Carter will definitely come and demand her hand himself. He's too strong. I don't want to marry him." Helen plucked the chicken feathers calmly and said, "Serves her right," who told her to keep stringing him along. "It's not that easy to marry a city man these days." Lily pouted. How was I supposed to know he'd be so hard to deal with? I just wanted someone who liked me too, someone to help with the work. Helen sighed. "We don't want our eldest to marry too far away anyway. If Emily stays nearby, she can take care of us when we're old. Your sister's heart is soft. Give her some extra chicken later. Once she's in a good mood, she'll agree." I bit my lip hard to stop myself from making a sound. I had always been the obedient, dutiful daughter who never caused my parents trouble, never asked for anything. And yet they were the ones who schemed to keep me trapped in the village, serving them for the rest of my life. Lily, on the other hand, lazy and spoiled, only needed to pout a little to get whatever she wanted. That night at dinner, Helen gave both chicken legs to me. "Once you're married, you'll belong to another family. Be sure to visit us often." I forced myself to eat silently. In my previous life, after marrying Jacob Carter, they had constantly called me home to help whenever they needed something. When my brother got married, they demanded money from me. Each time I gave in, my status in the Carter family dropped even lower. When I went into labor, they were busy collecting the harvest and never even came to check on me. None of them cared whether I lived or died. I finished eating the chicken without saying a word. They thought my silence meant I had given in, and everyone around the table smiled in satisfaction. Later that night, when my parents were asleep, I crept into their room and opened the wardrobe. I took out the household registration book, and beneath it, I found 50 yuan and 3 small packets of candy wrapped in red paper. They must have been the Carter family's betrothal gifts. I quietly took them all, wrapped everything in a piece of cloth, and left the house before dawn. As the first light of morning broke, I headed straight to the Carter house and knocked on the door. "Who's there?" came a deep voice. Moments later, Jacob Carter appeared in a black tank top. His tan muscles stretched tightly against the fabric. His brow ridge was thick and his eyes sunken, giving him a fierce, intimidating look. The sight of him made me instinctively tense up. "It's me," I said quietly. He frowned. "What are you doing here? You're not even married yet, and you're already running to my house." His words were sharp, but he stepped aside and let me in. He went to the kitchen, brought out a cob of boiled corn, and started eating. It must have been his breakfast. "From now on," he said between bites, "don't talk to other men so casually. You can't be acting like you did with that city guy before. That's not proper." He spoke like he already owned me, as if you were already my husband. That was exactly how he had been in my previous life. First, he forbade me from talking to men. Later, he forbade me from leaving the house altogether, even to work in the fields. "I can provide for you," he used to say. "Just stay home and behave." I placed the 50 yuan in the packets of candy on his table before he could react. "Before you deliver the coal today, I want to make this clear. Let's call off the engagement." Jacob froze. The corn snapped in his grip. His jaw tightened. His eyes dark with fury. "What the hell did you just say?" he growled. My heart clenched. It was just like before. Whenever things didn't go his way, Jacob Carter would curse and shout. His words sharp enough to make me tremble. My heart pounded with fear, but I forced myself to close my eyes and speak the truth. "My younger sister likes you," I said. "She told me you're hardworking, kind, and the perfect husband. As her older sister, I can't take that away from her." I repeated everything Lily had said to me before, word for word. Jacob stared at me, his eyes wide and unblinking, a foolish grin spreading across his face as joy replaced his anger. In my previous life, I had never known what Lily said to him that made him give up proposing to her and instead follow my parents' wishes to marry me. But now, since he knew Lily liked him so much, surely he would go to my parents to ask for her hand instead. "You better not regret this," he said through gritted teeth after a long pause. Then, with a flick of his hand, he shoved me toward the door and slammed it shut behind me. As soon as I stepped out of the Carter yard, I saw Ethan Cooper standing beneath the tree, expressionless. I walked over quickly and took his hand with a smile. "I just came to return the engagement gift," I said lightly. "Don't be upset, okay?" Ethan's ears flushed red. "I'm not upset," he muttered softly. But his face was crimson from ear to neck, so much for being a calm city boy. He got on his bicycle, and I climbed on behind him. We rode down the narrow dirt road toward the town's marriage registration office. Just before we reached the door, Ethan suddenly stopped the bike and turned to me. "Emily, if you've changed your mind, we can go back right now," he said, his tone gentle, but his grip on my hand firm. I shook my head. If someone truly cares for me, I'll judge that by what he does, not by what others say. People in the village always said Ethan was flirtatious, that he was too bold, not reserved like a proper man should be. But I had never seen him act improperly with any other woman. He had pursued me for 3 years and had never even dared to hold my hand. In my previous life, after I married Jacob, Ethan had never come to bother me again. It wasn't until before my death that I learned the truth. Every month, the money I received in Lily's name had actually come from Ethan. He had wanted to make sure I wouldn't live in hardship. After we got our marriage certificate, Ethan carefully took both copies and tucked them close to his chest. "I'll keep them safe," he said quietly. Then he brought me to the town market, insisting on buying me a new dress, a tin of snow cream, some sesame candy, and to my surprise, even a radio. Seeing my puzzled expression, he chuckled and said, "We're not running away together, Emily. I'll take all these gifts to your family when I come to propose properly." We returned home with our arms full of packages, and as we approached my house, we saw a large crowd gathered in front of the gate. A massive wild boar, easily 100 pounds, was tied there, and people were laughing and chatting excitedly. "Looks like we'll finally get to drink at Jacob Carter's wedding feast," someone shouted. "I told you, the Carters are marrying one of the Miller girls. Didn't I say so?" Another villager laughed. They thought Jacob had come to propose to me, but when they turned around and saw me walking hand in hand with Ethan, the laughter stopped. Mouths fell open in shocked. "What's this? Why is she with Ethan Cooper? Shameful." Broad daylight and no shame at all. Lily was in the crowd too. Her face turned pale as she rushed over, grabbing my arm. "Emily, come back inside. Brother Jacob is here to propose." The villagers gasped, whispering even louder now. "Unbelievable. She's already running around with another man. Doesn't she know how to behave?" I wanted to ignore them, but Ethan suddenly stopped walking. His sharp gaze swept over the crowd, his voice calm yet firm. "If anyone dares to speak another word about Emily," he said coldly, "don't blame me for what happens next." He didn't care what they said about him, but he would never let them insult me. The murmurs died instantly. When we reached the front yard, Jacob Carter stood tall and broad-shouldered in the middle of the crowd. His dark expression deepened when he saw us together. Then suddenly he spoke. "I came today to make things official," he announced loudly. "I'm here to ask for your younger daughter, Lily Miller, to marry me." The color drained from Lily's face as she clutched my arm. My father, Robert Miller, froze, the smile on his face stiffened, his voice faltering. "Lily is still young." But before he could finish, Jacob interrupted, pulling a handkerchief from his pocket. "She gave me this," he said proudly. "We've been together for a while now. Please, Mr. Miller, let us be together," Jacob said loudly, looking straight at my father before turning to Lily beside me. "Lily, isn't that right?" Lily was so startled that she only dared to nod. The villagers around us were stunned. "Wait, wasn't it Emily the Carters wanted to marry?" someone whispered. "You mean these two have been seeing each other all along?" My father, Robert Miller, stood frozen, unable to speak. Just then, Ethan Cooper stepped forward, carrying all the gifts he had bought. "Mr. Miller," he said steadily, "I'm here to propose as well. I want to marry Emily." My father's face turned crimson as the truth unraveled. His deceit now laid bare before the entire village. He had tried to trick both families for his own gain. Unable to meet anyone's eyes, he stood stiffly in shame. But Ethan didn't show any anger. He smiled calmly and said, "You clearly promised me that I could be with Emily. Yet you gave my pocket watch to Lily and arranged for Emily to marry another man. How do you explain that?" The crowd suddenly understood what was going on. The way they looked at my father changed instantly. He had always been known as a fair, respected man in the village, someone often called upon to mediate disputes. But now, they realized he had been scheming to deceive both families. My mother, Helen Miller, seeing how tense and embarrassing the situation had become, hurried to smooth things over. "Oh dear, what a big misunderstanding," she said with an awkward laugh. "Let's just settle it like this. Jacob will marry Lily, and Ethan will marry Emily." At that point, my father had no choice but to nod in agreement. When everyone finally left, Lily threw herself into our mother's arms, crying so loudly it echoed through the courtyard. While they were busy comforting her, I quietly slipped the household registration book back where I had found it. That night, as I prepared for bed, Lily stormed into my room, her usual sweet, innocent face replaced by fury. "You must be feeling proud," she snapped. "You get to marry a city man now, huh? You only took that pocket watch because you wanted to marry Ethan." I looked at her calmly. "Didn't you say, in your last life, you were miserable being married to him? What's so great about that?" She shouted hysterically. "He only likes you because he hasn't met me yet. If I had married him, he would have loved me instead." So that was it. In my previous life, she had been the one desperate to marry Ethan. But after she did, he never loved her, not even once. They had no real marriage at all. That must have been why she turned around and seduced Jacob Carter, and why she had hated me so deeply. I smiled faintly. "Then go ahead and make Jacob love you. Just be sure you can handle the consequences." We eventually held both weddings, one after another. Jacob's hunting skills meant he could afford a big celebration, with 10 full tables of food and several meat dishes at each. Though some villagers gossiped about the situation, none of them could resist showing up for such a grand feast. As for Ethan, he had wanted to host an even better wedding for me, saying, "If we do it right, no one will dare speak ill of you again." But I shook my head and insisted on a simple ceremony, the same as everyone else. "Then I promised," he said softly, taking my hand. "One day I'll make it up to you, with the grandest wedding of all." That night, after the banquet, I moved into Ethan's small government-assigned house for the city youth. It had 2 rooms and a living space, modest but clean. There was a large bookshelf, a new vanity table, and many little decorations he had clearly prepared just for me. On the vanity, I saw all the things young women adored: fragrant creams, pretty trinkets, a new towel, a toothbrush, and a fresh basin for washing. Everything had been thoughtfully arranged. After I washed up, Ethan took a wooden box from the cabinet and began handing me its contents one by one. "This is my allowance from working here," he said quietly. "I've been saving it ever since the day I met you. And these are the food ration coupons my father sent from the city. They're all yours now." I stared at the stack of cash and coupons in disbelief. There was nearly 500 yuan, enough to feed a family of 5 for 2 whole years. I finally understood how much he had sacrificed for me. And at that moment, I also realized just how wrong the villagers had been about him. Ethan looked at me with those star-like eyes and said softly, "I swear, in this life and the next, I'll never leave you. I'll do everything I can to give you the best." My heart ached, warmth blooming inside me. I nodded, "I believe you." That night, when we went to bed and turned off the lights, the memories of my past life flooded back. The tearing pain, the humiliation, the fear, my whole body trembled uncontrollably. "It's okay," Ethan whispered, his voice gentle and steady. "Don't be afraid, you're so beautiful, Emily." He didn't rush or force me. His touch was patient, his movements tender. He kissed me softly, easing away the fear bit by bit. When I woke up the next morning, my body felt clean and light, with no discomfort at all. So this was what it could be like, to feel loved, not used. My cheeks burned as I remembered the night before. "Morning, my wife," Ethan said cheerfully from the kitchen. "Come eat breakfast." He had bought large pork buns from the commune and cooked a pot of vegetable porridge himself. The aroma filled the little house. I ate with genuine contentment, my heart warm and full. After Ethan went to work, Lily barged into the house without knocking. Her cheeks were flushed, and she was walking with a limp. "What a shabby little place," she scoffed, glancing around with obvious disdain. Her eyes fell on the pearwood vanity table in the corner, polished, elegant, and beautifully carved. A flash of jealousy crossed her face before she quickly covered it with smudness. "Our house is so much bigger than this. Even my bedroom's larger than your whole place." I smiled faintly. "The Carter house might be big, but it's not exactly comfortable, is it? All those piles of firewood and animal carcasses in the rooms. Doesn't it bother you?" Her expression stiffened. "Big doesn't mean better," I continued quietly. "Being trapped inside those 3 floors isn't much freedom." I remembered how Jacob often came home drenched in sweat and refused to bathe. If Lily dared to complain, he'd drag her straight to bed. He never cared about her feelings, just as he hadn't cared about mine in the past. Lily raised her voice, flustered. "So what? At least I have meat to eat every day now, and I don't have to work in the fields." When Ethan goes back to the city, he'll abandon you. You'll regret this. Congratulations, I said lightly, cracking open a sunflower seed and nodding toward the bruises on her arms and neck. So what happened there? Lily's face turned as red as a cooked crab. You don't understand. That's just a sign of love. Looks more like a beating to me, I said quietly. Jacob Carter had always been rough and violent. He never cared whether his wife was in pain or not. Seeing that I wasn't jealous like the other women, Lily's face twisted with anger, and she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. All my life, people had said that being married was nothing like being a girl, that a woman had to be ready to suffer. In my previous life, even though Jacob didn't let me go out to work, I still had to wash, cook, and clean every day. That miserable life was what others envied. But after marrying Ethan, I finally understood. Men could take care of a home too. After resting for more than half a month, I felt my body soft and relaxed again, but I couldn't sit still any longer. Glancing at Ethan, who was reading by the window, I asked cautiously, Ethan, do you think I could help out in the fields to earn work points? He put down his pen, rubbing his forehead thoughtfully, his brows knitting together. My heart tightened with worry. Did he also think women shouldn't go out? Then he looked at me and smiled. Emily, would you like to study? Study? I blanked. There's a school in the village, but most people drop out after elementary to help at home. Hardly anyone takes it seriously. He nodded. That's true, but now that the policy's changed, everyone's encouraged to go back to school. When I was in the city, I loved studying. If you want to learn, I'll send you to the village school. If you don't know where to start, I'll teach you myself. Or if you'd rather, we can learn a skill together. Something useful. You're not built for heavy work anyway. When you cut grass, your hands bleed. When you carry vegetables, your shoulders swell. I can't bear to see you hurt. I hesitated. Wouldn't it be embarrassing? I'm too old to sit in class with children. Ethan chuckled softly. Why would it be embarrassing? Studying makes a person wiser, and you're smart, Emily, you do wonderfully. From that day on, something inside me shifted. I started going to school every day with the backpack Ethan had carefully prepared for me. The teacher there, Ms. Han, was also a city youth sent to the countryside. She was kind and patient, especially since I was one of the few women who truly wanted to study. Emily, she asked one afternoon, I haven't seen your sister Lily around lately. Is she expecting? I shook my head unsure. After all, Lily loved being the center of attention, always throwing herself into any group conversation, especially after her marriage. But now, she had completely disappeared. I didn't need to ask to know. Jacob Carter must have locked her inside the house. It wasn't until 3 days later that I saw her again. She looked different, quiet, cautious, and nervous. She no longer spoke to any man and started visiting our parents' home frequently. Sometimes, when no one was home, she'd sneak into my place and say she missed me. But I barely had time to entertain her anymore. Between classes and study sessions, my days were full. Every night before bed, Ethan would quiz me gently about what I'd learned that day. It was a happy kind of exhaustion, when I never imagined I'd experience. One afternoon, during math class, the classroom suddenly erupted into excited chatter. Come on, let's go. One of the kids shouted. There's a car in the village, a real one with 4 wheels like in the movies, another asked. Yeah, hurry up or you'll miss it. Even the teacher didn't stop them. She just smiled and let the children run outside. I followed them out, and there, standing under the sunlight, was Ethan, smiling warmly at me. Emily, he said softly, holding out his hand. Let's go home. Are you ready to leave with me? His fingers intertwined with mine, strong and certain. I nodded. Of course I am. At last, I was leaving Riverside Village, the place that had trapped me my entire previous life. Ethan only carried our documents, my books, and the money and coupons we had saved as we walked toward the car, waiting by the road. We haven't even packed the bedding or clothes, I said worriably. There's no need, he replied. We'll buy new ones when we get back. There are so many beautiful styles in the city, you'll look amazing in all of them. Word had already spread throughout the village that Ethan was the son of a high-ranking official, and that a car had been sent to take us away. By the time we reached the village entrance, nearly everyone had come to see us off. The same people who once looked down on Ethan were now smiling and congratulating us. But then my mother, Helen Miller, came running toward me, her eyes red, her hands clutching my arms tightly. Emily, you can't go if you leave what will happen to me and your father. Ethan frowned and stepped forward. Mother-in-law, what do you mean by that? Are you asking us to live apart? Helen wiped at her tears, sobbing pitifully. We just can't bear to let her go. If our son-in-law wants to leave, fine, but Emily should stay home with us like before. He can visit when he wants and send some money every month. His father's an official, they don't lack money, right? I let out a cold laugh and yanked my arm free. Then I looked straight at my father, Robert Miller, who was standing behind her. So you want me to stay here, wake up before dawn to cook for you, feed your chickens and ducks, work through the summer heat, taking care of everyone, and still call that earning my keep? And on top of that, you want money too. How shameless can you be? Robert's expression darkened. Ungrateful girl, he roared. How dare you speak to your father like that? He raised his hand to strike me, but Ethan caught his wrist midair and shoved it aside. My wife is coming with me. He said coldly, you still have another daughter at home. Don't hold Emily back just because she's hardworking and filial. She deserves her own life. Ethan wrapped an arm protectively around me and added his tone firm. There are too many parents who try to chain their children down for the sake of their own comfort, clipping their wings and destroying their futures. Hearing his words, my eyes stung with tears. This time, the man beside me wasn't someone who locked me away. He was someone who stood beside me, supporting me to live freely. My parents fell silent, unable to argue back. None of the villagers dared to step forward either, not against Ethan's sharp, unyielding presence. Just as I got into the car, a figure suddenly darted out in front of it, forcing the driver to slam the brakes. Ethan, you can't take her away. It was Lily. The driver sighed helplessly and stopped the engine. I narrowed my eyes. Lily Miller, I said evenly. What are you trying to pull this time? Lily's hair was a tangled mess, one of her slippers missing as she stumbled breathlessly toward us. I'm the one who's legally his wife, she shouted, pointing at Ethan. You have to take me with you. Her words rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. What? Isn't she his sister-in-law? Someone gasped. Then why is she claiming to be Ethan's wife? Another whispered. What law? What does the law have to do with wives? She just wants to go to the city and live a good life, stealing her own sister's husband. Shameless. One of the village bachelors laughed crudely. Ha, let him take both of them. Left arm, right arm, double the fun. Laughter erupted, mingled with disgust. Everyone could see the filthy desire in his eyes. Someone muttered, wherever your household registration is, that's where you belong. Otherwise you're a vagrant. Ethan and I exchanged a glance. We both knew exactly what Lily was trying to pull. This is our marriage certificate, she declared, proudly unfolding a red booklet. See the name here? It's mine. I'm Lily Miller. If you don't believe me, take a look. I tilted my head, pretending to be confused. And what exactly is that supposed to be? Lily gave a smug little laugh. You country bumpkin. You don't even know. The captain's wife told me, if you have this paper, no one can abandon you. Otherwise, it's against the law. I nearly laughed. So she'd been gossiping with the captain's wife and learned just enough to use the law as a leash. She had wanted to trap her husband, but now she was using it to steal mine. Emily, she sneered. Your husband is Jacob Carter. Go back home and have his babies like you're supposed to. She pulled out another certificate and threw it at my feet. This is proof. You were meant to marry Jacob in the first place. That pervert still thinks about you, you know. Says your skin's smoother than mine, that you're prettier too. Her voice grew nastier with every word. Ethan's hands clenched into fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. I could feel his anger building, his body trembling with the effort to hold back. I reached out and gently patted his hand. Don't, I whispered. He exhaled slowly, calming himself. Then he pulled a small leather pouch from inside his jacket and took out our own marriage certificate, still crisp and new. Emily and I registered half a year ago. He said evenly. Yours is invalid. Lily's face turned red. That's impossible. I used your household registration book and reissued it at the marriage office. Why wouldn't it count? I raised an eyebrow. So that's why you kept sneaking into my house. You were trying to steal our documents. Gasp rippled through the crowd. You must have found some random man, forged Ethan's identity, and faked a marriage certificate. I said coolly, but we got ours first, and our registration is real. If you don't believe me, we can go straight to the police station and see whose signatures are on the file. Stealing someone's ID to fake a marriage is a crime. Maybe you should turn yourself in. I smiled faintly, half mocking, half pitying. Lily's face drained of color. No, yours is fake. She shrieked, shaking her head wildly. Then, like she'd gone mad, she lunged at us trying to grab Ethan's hand. Ethan reacted instantly, slipping the certificate back into his pocket and sidestepping her. She stumbled and fell hard to the ground, bursting into tears. "Please," she sobbed. "Take me with you. Jacob will kill me. He locks me up every day. I can't even talk to anyone." Before I could answer, a loud, furious voice cut through the air. "Lily," Jacob Carter stormed toward us, his face dark as thunder. Lily's body went rigid. She lowered her head to the dirt, trembling. "I don't want him," she cried. Jacob glared down at her, his voice dripping with rage. "I haven't treated you badly, have I? You eat well, live well, and this is how you repay me by sneaking out. You want to run off and cheat on me." His eyes darted to the crumpled papers scattered by Lily's feet. The moment he saw the marriage certificates, his face twisted in fury. "So this is why you wanted the registration book," he growled. "You wanted to use it for this. Huh? Dreaming of going to the city, huh?" He spat on the ground. "You were the one who came crawling to me first. You flirted with me, begged me to be with you. And when I wanted to make it official, you refused, because you had your eyes on Ethan, and now you're still thinking about him." Jacob snarled. "Tonight, I'll teach you what it means to be a proper wife." Then, without another word, he grabbed Lily by the arm, slung her over his shoulder like a sack of grain, and stormed off toward home. A few people looked alarmed and started to step forward to stop him, but others quickly pulled them back. "Don't get involved," one said. "That's between husband and wife. They'll fight now and make up later." And just like that, everyone turned a blind eye to what was clearly violence. When the chaos finally ended, Ethan and I were able to get into the car. My parents didn't come to see us off. They had gone straight to the Carter's house to beg forgiveness. The drive to B-City took several hours. When we arrived, I was stunned. The Cooper family lived in a beautiful Western-style house with white walls and tall windows. Ethan's parents had already prepared a room for us. Inside were neat rows of new clothes and a fresh floral scent in the air. His mother, kind and graceful, didn't show even a trace of disdain toward me for being from the countryside. Instead, she held my hand warmly and taught me how to use the machines I had never seen before. "You don't need to fetch water from a well anymore," she said, turning a shiny metal handle. "Just twist this faucet and the water comes out." I stared in amazement as clear water poured from the tap. The electric lights were bright and soft, glowing like daylight. That night, lying on the softest bed I'd ever felt, I thought I'd be too excited to sleep. But I drifted off instantly, resting more peacefully than ever before. Later, we held another wedding in the city. Ethan's family insisted on giving me the celebration I deserved. I wore a white dress that shimmered under the setting sun. I was afraid people would think it was too revealing, but everyone only praised me. "The bride is stunning," someone said. "Ethan's a lucky man. He must have saved 8 lifetimes of good fortune to marry her. She's not even 20 yet." Another woman smiled. "Ethan, you'd better cherish her." Once I'd adapted to city life, I officially enrolled in high school. The classes were full of students of all ages, even people in their 30s. There were plenty of girls, and boys and girls studied together, played together, and learned freely. I made friends for the first time in years. After school, Ethan still helped me with my homework. He was patient, explaining every problem in detail. "Study hard," he'd say. "Next year, you'll take the college entrance exam. Once you get into university, you'll see it's even better than high school." At night, after finishing his own work, he would stay up late, helping me organize my notes and plan out my study schedule. Watching him so focused and gentle, I finally asked one evening, "Ethan, aren't you afraid that once I go to college, I might fall for someone else?" By then, I'd learned enough about city life to know how common it was for students to date in school, even married ones. He smiled and tapped my nose. "Of course not. You're too wonderful. No one could ever compare to you." I pouted. "I don't even talk to any of the boys in class." Ethan chuckled softly. "Emily, you can talk to them. I love you, and I know you love me. You won't leave me just because of someone else. You don't have to hide from the world for my sake." His words made my throat tighten. For the first time, I truly understood. Real love doesn't imprison someone. It gives them space to grow, to become stronger. By the summer of our 3rd year in the city, I passed the entrance exam and was accepted into the local university to major in literature. Not long after the semester began, I received a letter from my parents. They said Lily had given birth to a child 2 years earlier, but was still being beaten regularly by Jacob Carter. So much that her body was covered in bruises. They claimed they were getting older and had no one to care for them, and now they wanted to move to the city to live with me. It seemed word had reached the village that I'd gotten into university. And with new government policies making relocation easier, they had started dreaming again. I didn't reply. Instead, I quietly sent some money to Lily, telling her she could decide for herself whether to leave. But that letter planted a thought in my mind. Why haven't I gotten pregnant in 4 years? That night I sat on the bed, looking seriously at Ethan. "Ethan, do you think there's something wrong with me?" He turned to me, his eyes gentle, brushing his fingers against my earlobe. "Of course not," he said softly. Ethan was always tender, never rough, never causing pain. Sometimes his gentleness itself was overwhelming, too much to bear, yet impossible to refuse. Seeing the look on my face, he smiled faintly and stroked my back, whispering, "You're fine, Emily. Don't overthink it." Ethan gently explained, "You're still young, Emily. You haven't finished school yet. There's no rush for children." Then he lowered his head slightly, his voice softening. "Unless you really want a baby now." I didn't answer. Before I could, sleep overtook me. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, everything from my previous life came rushing back. After Lily and Ethan returned to the city, they lived in the Cooper family home, but they were never truly together. They slept in separate rooms. Lily often went to his workplace, pestering him for things, money, favors, attention. Ethan, patient as ever, suggested sending her to school, telling her she could learn and improve herself. But Lily accused him of looking down on her for being uneducated and threw a tantrum. Their relationship grew colder by the day. One year, during the Lunar New Year, Lily returned to our village and rekindled her affair with Jacob Carter. By that time, I was already pregnant in that life. In the dream, I saw them tangled together in the cornfield, completely shameless, as if the world around them didn't exist. I knew nothing then. I had even been grateful to Lily, who frequently sent money and gifts from the city, never realizing that all of it had come from Ethan. After I died in childbirth, Ethan rushed back to Riverside Village. Defying social norms, he forced his way into the Carter home and took my body to the hospital for examination. The doctors discovered I hadn't died from natural complications, but from a deliberate incision, someone had cut me open and left me to bleed to death. Lily and Jacob were both arrested and sentenced for murder. Later, Ethan built a tombstone for me in B City. The inscription read, "To my beloved Emily." He had wept there for hours, his tears soaking the ground. "I should never have believed Lily when she said you hated me," he cried. "When I found out she'd tricked me, I wanted to take it back, to go to you. But she showed me the pocket watch and said it was from you, that you wanted me to leave you alone. I thought marrying her would give you peace. I should have taken you away. It was my fault. You saved my life, Emily, and now it's my turn to repay you." The rain poured down heavily in the dream, washing the blood from his wounds into the earth. I tried to move to reach out and stop the bleeding, but my body wouldn't obey. I woke up crying, my cheeks wet with tears. Beside me, Ethan stirred and wrapped his arm around me. His voice was soft and warm, like smooth jade. "Why are you crying? Did you have a nightmare?" "It's okay, sweetheart. Dreams aren't real." I threw my arms around him, holding him tightly, feeling the heat of his body against mine. Only then did the fear fade. I could feel that he was alive, that we were alive. "Ethan," I whispered, "if something ever happened to me, if I wasn't here anymore, what would you do?" He smiled and teased gently. "Ah, so that's what your dream was about. Well, if you were gone, I'd find a new girlfriend, and I'd give her all your pretty jewelry." "Don't you dare," I said, instantly forgetting my tears as I hit his chest with my fists. He laughed and caught my hands, pretending to surrender. His eyes, dark and clear, softened with a depth of affection that made my heart ache. "I'd never let you be alone, Emily," he murmured, "so take good care of yourself and live to be 100. "Okay." Years passed quietly after that night. Ethan and I built a peaceful life together in the city. Simple, warm, and full of the kind of love I had never dared to dream of in my past life. I graduated from university with a degree in literature and began working as a teacher. Ethan, true to his promise, always stood beside me. When I published my first short story, he stayed up all night, proofreading it, smiling with pride as if it were his own success. Sometimes, when the summer breeze blew through our balcony, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine, I would think of Riverside Village, of the narrow dirt roads, the sound of chickens in the morning, and the girl I used to be. The one who didn't know how to fight for herself, who mistook silence for obedience and endurance for love. Now I finally understood. Love isn't about sacrifice or control. It's about trust, about standing beside each other, not in front or behind. Lily never came to find us again. I heard from someone back home that she had divorced Jacob and was living quietly with her son. My parents too grew old and fragile, and I sent money home each year, though I no longer felt the need for their approval. Some things once broken can only be carried, not repaired. One evening, as I sat on the balcony grading papers, Ethan came out holding a cup of tea and wrapped a shawl around my shoulders. "Emily," he said softly, "you remember the promise I made to give you the grandest wedding someday?" I smiled up at him. "You already did." He looked at me, eyes gleaming in the twilight. "No, that wasn't a wedding. That was the beginning. This," he said, taking my hand, "is our forever." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the city in gold and rose. For a moment, everything felt still, as if time itself had bowed its head to our peace. I leaned against his shoulder, my heart steady and full. In another life, we had missed each other. But in this one, we had found our way home. And that, I thought, as I closed my eyes, was all the happiness I would ever need.